Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk about Ireland invading Canada?
Yes, that's right, Johnny. Ireland, well, not really. Irish people, Irish Americans invading Canada in a series of raids, which were known as the Fenian raids. They were conducted by the Fenian Brotherhood, which is an Irish Republican organization based in the United States. So think of early IRA somehow making its way to the United States post-Civil War. And so we're going to invade Canada for reasons?
So I understand why how the IRA might get to the United States. I mean, the Irish immigration in early America was pretty vast. When was this taking place?
So there are two distinctly separate sets of raids. The very first ones happened in 1866. And they were also successful, which is why they tried it again in 1870 through 1871.
Okay. So these are Irish Americans.
Yes.
That are trying to gain their Ireland's independence, or?
Yes. So basically what you have is you have a bunch of Irish Catholic soldiers that came over to the United States during the potato famine.
Yeah.
Wound up fighting in the Civil War, whether that be on the northern side or the southern side, and gaining a lot of military experience that way. The Irish would lose their, one of many bids for independence again in 1865. And that would piss these Irish immigrants here in the United States in their own new country that has nothing to do with Ireland and go, you know what, our homeland should be free from the English. And since they're hopped up on, we just killed a bunch of people from the Civil War.
Yeah, they got that adrenaline still.
They have this adrenaline. And they get this idea, if they were to invade Canada, take over portions of Canada, they could then hostage negotiate Canada back to England in exchange for Irish freedom.
So trade territories that they took over and be like, if you go ahead and free Ireland, which we'll probably never be heading back to.
We'll give you Nova Scotia.
We'll give you this back that we just took over. It's a creative plan. You have to give them that much.
It is. I will give them the creativity to it. I'm not entirely sure how plausible it is, but I guess this goes back to we always joke about Canadians being super nice and a pushover.
Yeah.
This goes back to that. I think it even goes all the way into the Civil War, just post-Civil War. Even people back then were like, Canada's a bunch of pushovers. All you have to do is show up and you can take them over.
Yeah, we need a couple thousand soldiers. We'll just take over parts of Canada.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, the intention here is that they're going to use their leftover equipment from the Civil War, leftover musket that they were allowed to keep after the war was over, leftover accoutrements, including the belts that say U.S. on them, and take all this equipment and then use it against the Canadians, because I'm sure there won't be any diplomatic incident that could come out of that at all.
Also, we've discussed the quality of gear or lack thereof that was available during the Civil War. And so it's not like they're using their, freshly made arsenal of weapons. It's probably the gun they had also before the Civil War in a lot of instances.
It could very well be. Although by the end, if you made it to the end of the war, your equipment, if you were on the northern side, your equipment wasn't too bad. If you're on the southern side, I don't imagine that they were fighting with the best of stuff. Well, okay, so, to make things interesting, though, there is a huge Irish Catholic immigration population up in Canada too. So I think their other hope was that maybe they would get some of these Irish Catholic Canadians to join them as well.
They just think that all Irish people are going to be like, well, we need freedom for Ireland, so this is the way everybody is going to go about doing it. Everybody will see our plan and think it's great.
Except to sum up the Irish problem here with their independence, and I'm going to sum it up very quickly in 2 seconds. You have Irish Catholics that are the southern portion of Ireland that want their freedom and independence. And then you have the Irish Protestants, which are very much English supporters that are in Northern Ireland, the very tip of Ireland. And they're like, we want English rule because England's great and you dirty Catholics, our God is better.
And dirty cat. I thought historically Catholics and Protestants got along real well. I thought they were,
Well,
no, not so
not in
much.
Ireland. And so, while yes, there's a large amount of Catholic Irish that immigrated, there's also a large amount of, Protestant Irish that immigrated, and they
Sure.
don't always get along even over here. And then the Irish that were in Canada were like, hey, Canada's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
Like,
No, we like it here.
maybe I don't care what's going on over there in the island.
I moved out of there so I could come here and make this my country. I don't
And
I don't want it to be some weird temporarily held territory, because it's not like they weren't going to make it part of the United States. They were going to claim it
no, they were just going
in
to
the
give it
name
back
of
to England
Ireland, or
so Ireland could become free. Yeah, the whole intention was like, hey, I take this fort and I'll give it
right.
back to you, England, if you let Ireland go.
Let my country go.
Let my people go. So how do
A
we get
noble
there?
effort.
So how do we get there, Johnny? I'm going to start with the 1866 raids because these were the more successful of them,
Well, fresh off the heels of Civil War.
right? So the very, very, very first raid was led by a John O'Mahony. So I apologize for any stereotype names or any of that kind of stuff. I can't help it. These are these guys' names. His name was John O'Mahony.
O'Mahony. Okay.
O'Mahony. So Johnny, he was a son and grandson of the Catholic United Irishmen, which were pre-IRA, that fought for Irish independence going all the way back to 1798. So
Ah.
really, pretty much all of Irish history was get these English out of here.
And yeah, so it's like it's deep in their bloodlines. You're starting to see why they
They
felt
keep it
this
going.
way. Yeah.
Well, this raid in 17, or this bid for independence in 1798, didn't go so well for the Irish,
Oh,
like
uh-oh.
every single one of them after and before. And as consequence, if you fought for the Irish forces against the English during that 1798 rebellion, you were exiled out of Ireland. They're like, look, listen, we can't have it. You got to go somewhere else.
I mean, naturally, yeah.
So his family took a very brief stint in France where, France is a bit too pomp for them. So then they come across the pond, they go to the United States. So his father and his grandfather, from a wee little tot, he was taught that the English are evil and that we need to fight them and gain our independence. Like this is like racism taught through family generations
I
of
mean,
racism.
yeah, it's how any type of hatred for any particular group of people is learned. It's taught. It's not a natural thing we have.
Well, when O'Mahony became a wee adult, he decided to found the Fenian Brotherhood in 1858 with a goal of Irish independence. He modeled it after the Brotherhood in Ireland, which was basically a Catholic organization pre-IRA. I'm going to use the term IRA, although keep that in mind. They're not. That's just for modern context, so you kind of understand where we're
It's a
coming from.
parallel to what it
Yeah,
was.
they're not necessarily a part of the IRA yet, but it's basically what they become.
Similar roots.
Or similar groups, they're militant groups that are gaining Irish independence through military action. So in April 1866, he authorizes a raid into the Campobello Island in New Brunswick with 700 angry Irishmen. So the fact that this guy got 700 angry Irishmen together is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Get quick geography lesson. New Brunswick, northeast or southeast Canada, I mean?
That is in
Or
the northeastern portion of Canada, I believe.
okay, because kind of Newfoundland area.
It is right across from Maine.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
So
Northeast United States, Southeast
I want to
Canada.
say Quebec, but I'm not great with Canadian geography. It's
That
right above,
sounds right.
which is where he gets his 700 angry Irishmen. He gets to the coast of the Maine shore, right across from the island, with the intention to seize the island. The Canadians are well aware of his plans because, well, I'm going to go stereotypical a little bit here. The Irish, they like to go to their pubs and have a pint or two. And, well, their tongues aren't exactly the tightest with plans.
I don't know why any military in the history of military has allowed their soldiers to go to pubs at any point during any wartime, invasion time, anything. Because as we've learned, there's nothing but floozy spies trying to get information from you.
It very much so. So the Canadians already know what the plans are. So the Canadians call up their militia. And then they also ask aid from the regular British forces. By the 17th of April, British forces arrived from Nova Scotia with several Royal Navy warships holding 700 men. Mahoney in Maine, which granted, he didn't even actually get into Canada yet. Like
Right.
he's just on the shore of Maine.
He's
Sees
just
these
threatening.
warships with 700 people on him, says, yeah, never mind.
So he's not an idiot.
So he's not an idiot. No, he out of all these people, he really probably is the least stupid of them all. So he withdraws his forces and says, "Never mind, we're good."
So yeah, they just flex their muscles a little bit and they're like, ah, okay, yeah, you got this one.
The aftermath of this is that the at this point the colony of New Brunswick decides that we probably need to join the British North American colonies of Nova Scotia and the United Province of Canada, which is now Ontario, and Lower Canada, which is now Quebec. So before these raids all started, Canada isn't a united country. It's very much like the 13 colonies prior to our independence. We were 13 separate little mini countries
Right.
almost in themselves, which is
And
what's going on in Canada right now.
it's
So
it's
what
the
it does do,
Providence situation, right? Like they have
yeah,
their.
yeah.
Is it still the
So
same thing then?
yes, it encourages the New Brunswick Province to join with Nova Scotia, the United Province of Canada, which is Ontario now, in Lower Canada. So it didn't get Irish independence, but what it did do is help Canada get formed.
Kind of
So
bolstered their strength a little bit.
because they're like, maybe we need an actual like assistance with a larger we're better together than we are separate
Yeah,
kind
well,
of
they
thing.
probably thought, wait, somebody's actually going to try to attack us up here. Have they seen this weather? Like, what? Have they been through a winter? Why are they going to try to take any of this? All right, fine. We'll join forces so we can protect it.
Exactly. So this after this failed venture, the presidential faction, and I use this in quotes, I got to separate them because there's all these different factions to the Fenian Brotherhood. It's almost like a mini country themselves, and they have their Senate, the presidency, and what's called the Savage, which I don't know where that would fit in with our government, but
Why'd they get rid of that? I mean, we need that back.
that sounds awesome, right?
Cooler
So
names, at least.
the presidential faction, which is being led by Mahoney and James Stevens, says, yeah, we're going to go ahead and focus on funding the Irish Republic from here and just give them money so that they can fight the English on Irish soil, which makes a little bit more sense to get Irish independence than fighting a war across a pond.
Yeah. Yep.
But this doesn't sit very well with the Senate faction, which is led by William R. Roberts, who says, to hell with Canada, it's invasion time, and creates a two-pronged invasion approach.
Sounds like this guy might have just wanted to fight.
He might have. The funny thing about Roberts is he is a U.S. veteran, and he would become the U.S. emissary to Chile under Grover Cleveland's administration after the whole him being a domestic terrorist thing
Yeah.
winds down.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
given an emissary position to Chile under this is imagine like Bin Laden getting some kind of emissary position for the United States and Afghanistan after he was done being a terrorist. It doesn't make any sense at all.
I mean, yeah, or the like the Oklahoma City bomber being allowed
Okay,
to,
yeah, as a domestic terrorist,
because
yeah, but
he's domestic. Yeah,
we're gonna go ahead and give him a position as the
in an
ambassador to
embassy.
Haiti. Like, what? Why would you give that position? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know, time had passed. People forget things easily. They didn't have the social media to constantly remind us of his domestic terrorist attacks, and you
I
know,
guess. The Senate Secretary of War, who is the one that's coming up with this plan, is Civil War veteran General T.W. Sweeney, who drew up the invasion plans to Canada. And generally speaking, the plan was to invade Western Canada and Eastern Canada, cut the West off from the East, and then take over the West. So we
how
basically
far
kind
out
of have
was the West? Was the West like real West Canada now? It
no.
wasn't like
West Canada is like
above
above
Michigan
Michigan,
and
and then
Wisconsin,
your
all that. Yeah.
East
Okay.
Canada. Yeah, that's the yep. And this all would start with a diversionary attack on Fort Erie, above Lake Erie,
There
across
you
from
go.
Buffalo, New York. So
Okay.
not really all that west.
Not super west, but the western part of what was then
Yes, sure.
Canada, or at least the portions that they were they could go far enough out to, because they're not going out to Oregon and Washington, or Washington, I guess, to go in.
No, well, we'll get there eventually, Johnny, but not during these first sets of not during these first sets of invasions. So there's a soldier by the name of O'Neill who will wind up taking a lot of the command of this. And on June 1st, 1866, 1,000 to 1,300 Fenians approximately would cross the Niagara River. They would wind up sabotaging the USS Michigan gunboat, which was an internal job. That they were Irishmen on the USS gunboat who sabotaged it
Okay.
so that they could cross the river unimpeded. Because well, the Americans weren't really excited about the idea of a bunch of Irish Americans creating war with Canada using American equipment. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
the only
if this
go
were a
ahead.
heist movie, this would be them disabling the alarm so they could sneak into the building, basically.
Yes,
You
exactly.
have your security guard who looks the other way or who disables it from the inside. That's
Yes,
smart.
exactly. Exactly. It is smart. It is smart because, like, I mean, the only thing that would separate you knowing that this is an Irish Republican force or some kind of Irish terrorist group from a normal U.S. military force is that they were wearing green jackets as opposed to the blue jackets of the Northern forces. Other than that, all the equipments, the guns, everything were like U.S. standard military.
Yeah.
They would wind up getting 14 hours of unimpeded crossings because the U.S. Michigan was delayed in its deployment, but after 14 hours, the USS Michigan would be deployed, and the Fenians were officially cut off of any additional supplies or reinforcements. So, what you have on the Canadian side is what you get.
14 hours. I mean, that seems like a decent amount of time to get. It's pretty substantial amount. I mean, I guess it depends on how many transports they had and everything, but were
It's
they able
fine.
to
They got
get?
they got their they got their 1,000+ guys across, but that's it. That you don't
Okay,
have any more food,
and
any
no,
more
no,
ammunition,
nothing coming later.
reinforcements.
So good luck.
So you good luck. Use what you got.
Well, at least the Canadian wilderness is providing.
Right. So on the Canadian, obviously, militia is like, we can't have this, and they would form up on June 2nd. The Canadian militia forces would march to Ridgeway, which is a small little town right by Fort Erie, and would be ambushed by these Fenian Brotherhood. And by militia, I do have to describe the militia to give you kind of a backstory of how these domestic terrorists could even possibly compete with them. The militia is poorly trained. Think of very first Battle of Bull Run episode where these guys don't even know, like they've never even had practice to shoot the guns,
They
let
basic,
alone march or anything else.
yeah, basically at this point they've been told that they're in a militia, and
Yeah,
that's about it.
this is every stereotypical American gun owner that says, "I'm going to fight for our independence," and then like they're the fat, overweight guys wearing the
Yeah,
bulletproof vests and shit, and then when it actually comes time to like you have to do something, they disappear.
and the army cosplay folks. Yeah.
Yeah, the Army cosplay. These are the Army cosplay folks. Uh, they are all armed with Enfield rifles for the most part, which is very comparable. Like most of the Irishmen have combination Springfields or Enfields. They're all, for the most part, on equal armament foot, except there is a company called the Queen's Own Rifles, which are marching with Spencer repeating rifles, which is a lever action repeating gun. It held 7 rounds. It
Ooh.
is one of the most advanced pieces of equipment you can get at this time. The problem is they had absolutely no training with those guns on how to properly load them,
And
use them.
and it's a brand new technology, by the way.
It
It's
is
not
a
like they had anything familiar before that, right?
no. The way you load and fire a Spencer is very different from the way you load and fire a musket. And I can give an average, like Johnny, if I were to give you this musket, I'm sure at some level, if I gave you the paper cartridges, you could sort of figure it out.
I've seen I mean, yeah, eventually I think I could get. I'd probably ruin your gun in the
Maybe.
process.
Yeah. If I
But
gave
yeah, it's not that complicated of a mechanism. You put the cartridge down, you jam it down, you light the little fuse at the end, or the hammer goes down and hits a spark or something, and then it
you
goes
got the
off,
general
right?
concept. If I
Yeah.
gave you a Spencer and the ammunition for the Spencer, I guarantee you won't be able to
Not a shot.
intuitively figure it out. Like it's
Just
not
like loading it.
just loading it, let alone
Yeah.
firing the damn thing, just getting it loaded. It's
And so
not
it's not your Daisy Red Ryder beat pump lever action
no,
BB gun that just
no,
click click bang.
nope, it's not that at all.
You funnel all the BBs in the side of it and then they just hold in the cartridge. No,
Yep,
different.
not that. Not that. Nope.
Huh.
To make matters worse, they only give each man 28 rounds of ammunition for the Spencer, which is nothing.
That's like four, like so they hold, so that's four full like cycles,
Yeah, 4 magazines full.
magazines. Okay.
And if a properly trained soldier with a Spencer rifle was given that rifle and went, full out, like I'm going to dump as much ammunition as quickly as I can, that's about 2 minutes worth of ammunition.
Yeah, which is what, like two to three, four maybe firings of the musket.
Two magazine loads about a minute is what you could sort of get off if you were really good.
Well, what about, no, I'm talking about for a musket. How
for a musket in 2
it's like
minutes, a properly trained soldier should get 6 rounds off in 2
six.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so about 20 seconds or so to fire a shot.
So my point to bring that up is any advantage these Queen's Own rifles might have had with that Spencer was completely gone by the lack of ammunition and the lack of training on how to use that gun. So the Battle of Ridgeway would begin on the 2nd. The Canadian forces would be ambushed by the now only 600 to 700 Fenians because the rest either deserted or were deployed elsewhere.
Stayed
Pretty
in
sure those Irish
cities in Canada.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure what happened is they got into Canada and go, oh, shit, it's really clean up here.
You guys got it pretty
it.
nice.
I'm just going to go ahead and stay.
Oh, you have an extra room? Yeah, I'll pay rent.
mean, if they're used to Buffalo, New York, and then you go across into Canada, like, I get it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It'd be
no
like
doubt.
if you're used to Detroit going across to Windsor. I get why you'd want to stay in Windsor.
Yeah, you start to understand why those Irish that are in Canada aren't really joining up in arms with you.
Yeah, and by the way, they don't. The Irish do not join up in arms in Canada with the American Irish. The Fenians would ultimately win this battle when the untrained Canadian troops saw that the British regulars were arriving. And then they thought, well, we'll just give the field to the British regulars. So they started to withdraw from the field. The British regulars saw that and thought, oh, they're retreating, so we should retreat too. So then they start leaving the field. And in this confusion, somewhere, somebody gave the call to form a square because somebody on the Canadian forces thought that the Fenians had cavalry, which they didn't. And the proper way to defend against cavalry was forming a square. So while the retreating British and Canadian forces are trying to form a square, the Fenians fix bayonets and charge and just push them all aside because, well, mass confusion.
Yeah, so what does forming a square do against cavalry?
So basically, if you form a square, the cavalry can't just hit you at any flank. No matter where they go, if they try to circle you, they're always going to have gunfire on them.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's like a back-to-back type situation, but with an army instead of two people.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. The end casualty report here, Johnny, for that battle on the 2nd is that the Canadians would lose 7 killed in action. 2 would later die of their wounds. 4 would later die of disease because we're still in that phase where disease kills just about as much as bullets.
Yep.
54 would wind up being wounded. The Fenians would lose 10 KIA with about 16 wounded. After the battle, the Canadians would retreat to Port Colborne, and the Fenians would retreat to Fort Erie. So basically, even though the Fenians won, they're like, well, we can't really hold the city, so we'll go back to the fort.
Like, I think we've proved our point here, guys. Let's head back home.
The fort is ours. The subsequent battle at Fort Erie saw several Canadians wounded and several would surrender when the Canadians would try to take Fort Erie on the 3rd of June. But, after this battle is over, the Fenians realized we don't have reinforcements, we don't have supplies, we don't have enough. Like, we didn't bring food for more than a couple of days.
Yeah, well, and they have to be running out of ammo
for more than a couple of days.
Yeah, the ammunition.
What are we gonna do? So they decided to retreat right back across Lake Erie, where they were intercepted by the USS Michigan, and they are all surrender and get arrested.
So they come back and they're like, guys, what the hell were you doing over there? You're not allowed to do that. You're going to jail.
You can't do that.
Like, what, we tried to tell you. What, you snuck across? You disabled one of our ships to sneak things across? What the hell's wrong with you?
You can't do. Come on. After the invasion, the U.S. president at the time, Andrew Johnson, said that yeah, we can't have this, and orders Grant to figure it out. Says, look, listen, Ulysses Grant, you got to figure out. You can't let your fucking crazy ex-Irish soldiers cross the damn border illegally and stir up some shit with Canada. We can't have this.
Yeah, he's like, Grant, get your house in order, bud. Come on.
Uh, like I said, multiple Fenian members would be arrested over the next few days. But on the 7th of June, 1,000 other Fenians would start the Canadian East invasion. So, regardless of the fact that the West has already failed, we're going to still go ahead with the East invasion,
Well,
Johnny.
maybe they'll have more supplies this time.
They would occupy Pigeon Hill and Freilisberg St. Armand, which is in Stanbridge. If you're a Canadian, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But as an American, I have no idea. Somewhere in Quebec.
It's up north.
It's up north, yep. But the Fenians, having little to no supplies, on June 8th, the Canadian forces arrived to Pigeon Hill, and the Fenians surrendered. So again, it's that same situation. We get across the border, but we don't have any means to supply us or resupply us. And yes, we took this little hill, but the Canadians actually have a military. Yeah, we're done. Sorry.
I mean, they're lucky that the Canadians are so nice. Because it's like a tiny child running up and like punching Mike Tyson continuously. Like,
And Mike Tyson just going, all right,
he's
whatever.
like, come on, no, you can't do that. All right, go back. Do you want me to hit you? No. All right, well then I'll let you walk away. That's fine.
Well, and Johnny, that ends the successful raids of 1866, which, if you were listening a little bit earlier, knew that was the most successful part of this whole raid campaign.
And it was
were these
successful
two little
because why? They set foot on
Yeah,
Canadian soil.
They took territory for a day.
I mean, they captured the flag, but then left it there and walked away. Like,
Yes, and that's the most successful.
they got close.
So, but the
All right.
Brotherhood's not done, Johnny. There are still some that think this Canadian idea is viable and still want to pursue it, so they still pursue it.
And so but the next raids were what, a couple years later?
A couple years later.
So they had time to build up their forces and get out of prison and all that.
They do, and they start by organizing openly in Northwest U.S., which is a little bit of a hotbed between Canada and the United States, because if you watch one of our early episodes, the Pig War, you know that whole Oregon Treaty border dispute, even after it was settled, it was rough going for a little bit, with who had what island and whose pig ate what food, and can you shoot said pig for eating a potato?
Yeah,
which is also an Irishman's farm.
Yeah, they're
These Irish Americans really kind of screw.
They're a feisty bunch, aren't they?
They are feisty. So they would start by organizing very openly in Northwest U.S. in the Oregon region, but they would never actually raid anything. But what this did do is piss Canadians off enough that they thought that there was enough of a threat that they started to openly arm themselves. So they started to get contracts for various different weapons suppliers so that they could arm their militia. Because at this point, their militia is outdated.
So they took notice that they're setting up camp kind of near the border, and they're like, all right, well, if you're going to be doing that, then we need to take this kind of seriously.
Kind of seriously, yes. And one of those guns this is just me because I'm a gun nut and I like guns and stuff. One of the guns that they would wind up adopting is the Peabody side hammer, which it's pretty much the only military contract that the Peabody side hammer got was to Canada for the prevention of this invasion, which I thought was hilarious. And if you want to know more about that, there is a great YouTube channel, Forgotten Weapons, that did an episode on this, which is what gave me the idea for the Fenian raid episode, is because he talked about it a little bit. On May 25th, however, though, in 1870, the Fenians would actually launch a raid on Eccles Hill in Quebec. So again, we're going to Eastern Canada again. We're going to Quebec. Those dirty French Canadians, which
French
I think even the Canadians are okay with us invading Quebec. Like, I don't think they're big fans of Quebec either.
Quebec's kind of their black sheep of the provinces, I think, in Canada.
I think Quebec's kind of like their West Virginia.
Yeah.
But they would invade again, this time led by O'Neill, who was one of the officers in the first invasions, but this time he's actually leading. He would wind up By the way, O'Neill is a veteran, another Civil War veteran. He has 200 men this time, and he is stopped twice by U.S. Marshal George Forster before crossing into Canada. Marshal Forster warned him about the neutrality laws and said, listen, you can't do this. You can't cross the border. You can't go fight the Canadians. We're not going to allow it. Don't do it. And he said, nah, I'm going to do it anyways.
And then
And
he let
Marshal
him go.
Forster, on the second time, warned him and said, look, they're waiting for you. The Canadians know you're coming. The militia is armed. They're ready. Don't go.
Yeah.
He said, no, I'm going to go anyways. He said, you know what? Fuck it. Go. Have fun. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see
they're
you
gonna
in a
punch
couple of
back
days.
this time.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple of days.
Maybe. Some of you.
Some of you, yeah. Like I said, didn't stop him. He would wind up going. The Canadian Riflemen were raiding, a regiment of Canadian Riflemen were raiding, and O'Neill got shot to pieces.
Oh, shucks.
Well, not really. I mean, he lost 2 men and a couple more wounded. But what happened is as he gets up to the hill and gets shot to pieces, he goes, oh, shit. And they leave their one cannon that they had behind. He's like, ah, run away, run away. Run away! And they leave the one piece of equipment you probably didn't want to leave. They left it.
So this whole battle here was just a donation of a cannon.
But yes, it was pretty much a donation of cannon. And the funny thing is, these Canadian riflemen were actually outnumbered nearly 6-1 by the 200 Fenians. So there was like 50 dudes there, and like that was about it. And they were able to. Like, what were they just not expecting any resistance? Like, I don't know why the Fenians ran away so quickly.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they thought they were going to march up into Canada, and then there was going to be a rise up of other Irish Canadians who are like, oh, yeah, no, they're right. So we're going to join forces with them. And then they're going to be like, so this is now part of Ireland until we can trade it back for Ireland's freedom. And they just thought it was going to be that easy. And they started walking in, and somebody shot at them. They're like, what the hell was that? Why would you do that?
This almost reminds me of the movie Canadian Bacon, which I know you've not seen because you don't watch movies, and you will, because spoiler for everybody sitting at home, me and Johnny are going to start doing a once a month eventually. I don't know when we're going to start it, but once a month I'm going to make Johnny watch a Laserdisc.
Oh, you have that on Laserdisc?
I do have Canadian Bacon on Laserdisc, so I will make you watch it. And it basically it's a bunch of drunken Americans who think like they should invade Canada and then invade Canada.
So it was probably based off of this invasion of Canada, the Ireland invasion.
It really might be. So look forward to Laserdisc Monthly whenever we get that going.
Woo!
Woo! Johnny's not excited about it at all. I'm excited about it because, there's a lot of good movies on Laserdisc.
Yeah, tangent. I embrace new technology and high definition and good graphics and things. And
well, you're not getting that with what I'm showing you.
Not getting up to flip over a CD, a giant CD, to continue my movie 45 minutes in.
I'm going to make you watch Braveheart on Laserdisc, and we've got to flip that disc like 5 times.
Oh, my God. All right, but you have to drink every time you flip a disc.
Oh, that's fine. Deal.
Be wasted.
Deal. On May 27th, 1870, the Fenians would try again at the Battle of Trout River, which is just outside of Huntington, Quebec. This led to a retreat across the border back into the United States, where O'Neill denied losing any of the battles up there, and he said he was simply just redeploying.
That's right. Yeah. Just checking things. It was a scouting mission. He didn't lose anything. He wasn't even trying to battle.
Upon his retreat back across the border, he would be arrested by the U.S. Marshal Forster, and who's like, "I told you, dude. Like, what are you, like, what were you doing? Come on."
He had 2. Well, that was strike 3, right?
That was strike 3. Yeah,
he caught him the 3rd time, and he's like, "All right, time to go."
His arrest, however, didn't last long because in 1871 he was at it again. Once he was released from jail, he would which again, this is amazing to me.
They keep letting him go.
You can be a domestic terrorist. You can go and do an armed invasion of a foreign country and then get arrested back in your home country. I use that in terms of, whatever.
Sure.
And then just be released like a couple weeks, like you're just an idiot. Just don't do it again. And they
T-
release him. And then he does it again.
yeah, tell me white privilege doesn't exist.
And this is for all the people what about the Irish slaves? This is an Irish guy who's given white privilege. In any case, in 1871, he would resign his position from the Senate wing of the Fenian Brotherhood, and he would join the Savage wing of the Fenian Brotherhood.
Yeah, that's smart.
Savages. O'Neill proposed another set of invasions into Canada across the Dakota Territory this time, but the Savage wing said, yeah, you've never been successful with this. This idea clearly doesn't work. We're not doing it. At which point, O'Neill decided to resign from the Brotherhood because they're just not hip enough, or they're not.
They don't get it.
They don't care about Irish independence enough.
Yeah, it sounds like to me like they're a bunch of sellouts now. They don't even care about taking Canada over to trade back to England for their freedom.
Which is every time we say that, it gets stupider and stupider. Poor Canada. What did Canada do? Canada's up there going, what did I do, eh?
Guys, stop. Please. We don't want to do this.
We've got free health care and strippers. Why
Sorry
are you
about
mad at us?
Sorry about all the guys that we keep shooting.
But not to be deterred, Johnny, he would still somehow manage to get 35 Irishmen to join him. In October 5th, 1871, he managed to capture a Hudson Bay Company post and a Canadian custom house just north of what he thought was the Dakota-Canadian border.
I think we should note quickly that the 35 is 5% of those 700 that he brought in some of the earlier battles.
Yes, but he's still got 35 people to follow him.
I mean, that's a low return.
It is a low return. He gets 35 people to join him. He takes over the Hudson Bay Company, which is basically like the equivalent of taking over UPS, like a UPS depot.
Okay.
I'm trying to give it to
shipping
like modern
hub
context.
Yeah,
the Hudson Bay was like a import-export company that is corrupted. Anyways, it's a different, but it's like taking over a UPS post.
Sure.
And he took over a Canadian custom house, which is like taking over an import-export, custom house.
Yeah.
What he thought was in Canada, across the Dakota-Canada border, but in reality was actually inside U.S. territory.
Damn it. Where'd they draw those lines and why?
They would promptly be arrested by U.S. soldiers led by Captain Lloyd Wheaton.
I like that the Canadian soldiers just like engage in battle with him, and then the American soldiers are just like, we're going to arrest you again.
Yeah, again.
For this.
Again.
Like,
I can't stress that enough. Again.
Like, we're not going to...
Again.
Yeah, we're not going to fight you or battle you. We're going to keep on arresting you for trying to take over a country.
They had hoped that they would be able to get the Métis Indians to join them in their fight.
They are so optimistic.
But what they didn't realize, or O'Neill didn't realize, is that the Métis Indians actually signed a peace treaty with the British the day of the invasion, so they weren't going to help. They're also the ones that captured O'Neill himself and turned him over to the U.S. military.
So this is very clearly two experienced militaries fighting a ragtag team of idiots.
Yep.
Because as soon as it started, Britain's like, all right, hey, all of you Indians, like, we're going to need you. If you want to go ahead and not turn on us, let's go ahead and sign a peace treaty because we don't want to deal with this. And then they turned them in.
How big of an asshole do you have to be if a Native Americans are willing to side with the British and the Americans against you?
Yeah, that's you're in small company there. It's there's not too many people lining up on your side. It's either you're a real asshole or your idea is just garbage and maybe you should give up on it.
And you know how we were talking about white privilege, Johnny?
Yeah.
So even after being arrested twice for domestic terrorism, O'Neill and his men are released and not charged with invading the U.S. as they were just idiots. Basically, the U.S. military goes, "You guys are fucking fools. Go home."
I mean, that's enough. God, why isn't that enough to arrest people? I mean, obviously they could have. They have crimes that they could have charged them with,
They
treason,
they
perhaps.
took over a UPS store by force
Yeah.
and a custom house by force. I mean, it's not. I mean, they showed up with. It's like going. Like, imagine going to your UPS store with a gun and saying, "This UPS store is now my store," and not getting charged with a crime.
Or imagine like showing up at a state capitol building armed to the teeth with assault rifles and not getting charged with a crime. Oh,
Damn it, Johnny. We are. For listeners at home, I apologize for Johnny's comments. Those are Johnny's comments, not Historic Hindsight's comments. Because Historic Hindsight, we are a non-political
that's right.
entity.
That's right. It was
Except
just
for
a
Johnny.
hypothetical.
It is
That's all.
hypothetical.
That's
It is
all.
hypothetical. Hey, right to bear arms, right?
I'm just asking the questions. That's all.
It's weird because when the Black Panthers did that during the Reagan administration, we got all kinds of gun laws from Reagan,
Huh.
who's a Republican, who's supposed to be pro.
Tell me, what was that about? Historic Hindsight's non-political
No,
affiliation?
I'm sorry. I got sidetracked. I apologize for my own comments. Hope we don't lose one of the 5 subscribers that we have. Actually, we've got 34 on YouTube. I'm happy right now. I never thought we'd have that
Skyrocketing.
many. Yeah, we are skyrocketing. We're getting almost one a week now. So the aftermath, Johnny. I got my casualty reports and all that stuff.
And this is for the full.
This is for the full Fenian raids, which, by the way, apparently it was a big enough deal in Canada that they still do regular reenactments of these battles all the time, which is funny to me.
That is funny. But
I want to participate in the Fenian raid reenactment.
Yeah, how many battles does Canada have? A lot of battles to reenact that would be better ones, or I'm not sure their military history.
Full disclosure, Canada kicked our ass, the United States ass, a couple of good times. Like, they burned down our capital in the War of 1812. Like, it was the Canadians that came down and burned us.
Reenact that.
Yeah, in reality, well, and they fought in World War I and World War II. Like, Canada gets a bad rap for being we call them a bunch of pussies, but like in reality, like, I wouldn't mess with Canada.
Yeah, well, these battles too have the benefit of they could actually go to the battle sites.
Yes,
in
they
Canada
can.
and
they
hold
can
those
reenact them, and they're great glory. Well, except for the Battle of Ridgeway, they're for the most part great glorious victories.
Yeah,
Battle of Ridgeway was a little embarrassing for them. Maybe give your Spencer guys more than 2 minutes worth of ammo.
Well, they thought they'd use it more sparingly.
Maybe. So instead of getting Irish independence, these raids basically solidified Canada as a country. So, way to go, Ireland! Made Canada a country.
They liberated a country with their raid. So successful raid. That's what they wanted, right?
It encouraged the Canada militia to, actually
get their shit
train. Like, we can't just expect a bunch of what do they call them, Boogaloo boys to actually do anything. Maybe we should train these guys.
Yeah, man, giving them a gun and telling them they're part of a militia is not enough.
Not enough? No, it's not enough. Not even giving them a gun, letting them have the gun that they have at home and bring it with them.
That'll be fine. That's good enough. Well, you figure they know how to use that one. So.
There was a scotch of political unrest between the United States and Canada, as the Canadians felt that the Americans were responsible for the Fenians. And I mean, yes, we were.
If not,
they were wearing U.S. equipment. We gave them the shit.
I mean, if not responsible, at least enabling.
Yeah, we definitely.
Yeah, released their leader from prison multiple times after arresting him.
We confronted the guy twice before he invaded Canada, and we're like, all right, go ahead and go.
Yeah,
don't cross. I trust that you're not going to cross that border, and he crossed the border.
Yeah, basically,
I'm on his way back.
It's like this. It's like somebody walks into your house, and you call the police, and they take them away. And they get out of their house, but then the police just let them go in the front yard and let them walk right back in and open the door and come back in.
So a very brief equivalent of this would be this is how Americans respond to something similar. So Pancha Villa, who we armed and supported during the Mexican Revolution, turned on us and had a couple of raids in the United States. In response, we sent an invasion force into Mexico.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Canada was cool with it, was like, guys, can you get your fucking people together? Like,
Yeah.
we understand, like, you can't control everybody, but can you get, like, your terrorists in order?
Could you please have them stop invading our country?
That's
That's
the difference
all.
between
Yeah.
Canada and the United States, where the United States went, we're invading
Oh,
you.
God, could you Canada would be part of the United States if they had rogue terrorist groups taking arms and invading United States cities. Like
Well,
we would have gone full out invasion.
well, no, they wouldn't be, because they proved a couple of times we did try to
Well,
go into Canada that they're not pushovers.
we would have given it our damnedest though. Like we would have tried.
We very much would have tried. We would have tried. At the end of the day, though, like, obviously it didn't hurt us too much, because the Canadians in the United States are, at least nowadays, sort of, we're friendly enough.
Yeah. We're cordial neighbors.
We're cordial neighbors. A casualty report for the entire war here, Johnny, is that the Fenians, they would have 24 killed in action, 48 wounded, 59 captured, and 1 cannon lost. We cannot forget about that cannon.
Yeah. That's an important piece.
The Canadians would lose 13 killed in action, 94 wounded, 54 captured, and another 22 would die of further wounds and diseases because, well,
That's what happens.
it's the 1800s.
Sorry about you. We don't know how to cure
Sorry
anything.
about
Have some
ya.
cocaine. Try to get better.
And that, guys, is the Fenian raids.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about gay bombs.